So new government last year, and a huge amount of the attention and focus of the consultations and proposed policy that the government have been making is inevitably around economic growth, and a significant proportion of that is around economic inactivity. We saw figures towards the end of last year that tells over 9 million people are economically inactive in the UK. And that's about 21% of the population. So obviously kind of a significant number. What we wanted to do today was talk around some of those issues, some of those policy proposals, and really have a think about and discussion about how our sector of sport and physical activity can impact on that positively, and particularly looking at the links between physical inactivity and economic inactivity, thinking about things like the Get Britain Working strategy that was published sort of November, December time, and particularly having to think about young people that are not in employment, education, training, now at around 900,000, obviously a significant proportion of the current potential workforce, but also the future as well, and getting people into those habits of economic activity. So Tash, I guess start with you from an education perspective. What are your thoughts in terms of how our sector really and the opportunities of working in the sector have for young people, but not exclusively young people, those looking for a career or a return to a career and moving back into economic activity?
Yeah, I would say there's several opportunities available for those either wanting to start their career or those young people that are not in education, employment or training. And it's ultimately an opportunity for them to access career guidance. So if they're looking for opportunities to explore the opportunities that are available to them, but ultimately as the broader range of offers to them is around the flexible training that there is, you know, in terms of the partners that we have with further higher education, our awarding organisations that have flexible qualifications that they can access. So in terms of them being able to access the training that it's needed, there are a variety of ways in which they can do that, including apprenticeships as one of those. So I think from you know, if we're looking at an inclusive offer to be able to entice those into the sector, there is a broad range that is kind of tailored to the needs of the individual. There's so much out there in terms of advice and guidance that we've recently published. And that provides not only a national picture, but very much from a localised perspective, which really paints the picture of what's available to them in their local area, which is so important. And I think that really shows a community that is kind of very much inclusive of what the employers are asking for. We know from the Active Life survey that, you know, physical inactivity is kind of on its rise, and what we need to be able to do is support that, because ultimately we know that has a massive impact on economic inactivity as well.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think, you know, one thing we know about our sector is that there are some huge advantages for people looking for a career direction or a new career in the sector. Flexible hours, ability to kind of do multiple jobs potentially, multiple roles, and also the kind of the breadth of opportunity. I think people always see our sector and roles in our sector as being, you know, the coach, the instructor, the very kind of supporting participants in getting physically active. But there's a whole breadth of roles, from kind of management, finance, marketing, tech, a whole breadth, and it really does offer people a huge amount of opportunity. Claire, from your perspective and what employers are looking for, what are some of the trends that you're seeing? We know there's kind of been some recruitment and retention issues in the sector, and they continue. But we know that there are some great opportunities out there. What are employers saying to us?
Yeah, I think the employers, there's been a big change recently around really wanting to understand and invest in their workforce much better, and actually being able to give individuals the opportunity to develop qualifications, but what underpins all that essentially is foundation skills. So the ability to communicate effectively, to use different types of media, to be able to socialise, to cross-sell, upsell products and services. That's really the foundation of what we can build on moving forwards and what employers are looking for. And as you've just said, Annette, our sector is very diverse and very accommodating. We're not a typical 9-to-5 sector, so the employers in this sector, ranging from leisure centres, sports coaches, can offer a variety of different roles and different timings in order to suit many people. So it's very, very flexible, which we're starting to see a little bit more now with those career changes or those returning from retirement, not in education, employment and training. It's not just young people, it's also those that are maybe looking to come back in to participate not only in sport, but to deliver some form of sport and physical activity as well. So it's a lot of options that are available for people looking to work in our sector. And we are one of the most flexible sectors out there that can support people coming into work or back into work.
So we know that when people are come into the sector who have had lived experience of things like long-term health conditions, and they've used physical activity as a means to manage that condition, that they have a huge amount of impact with those inactive populations. One thing that we've been doing a lot of work around is professional standards, and particularly professional standards looking at working with specific population, women and girls, people with long-term health conditions, and others. What are the kind of the training and learning opportunities around that, Tash, and how can they link in with some of the other work that we're doing to get more people working in the sector?
Yeah, so over the years, we've developed professional standards that underpin all the occupational roles. What we've found is that people want to specialise in certain areas, and people want that training, and we want to be able to provide the competency and the confidence for those to be able to work within that area, and for the participants and the client to have confidence in the professionals that they're working with. So, you know, there are professional standards that underpin all those qualifications in CPD, and we're seeing a lot of engagement from those that wanting to work within the health side of things. So we have a professional standards around working with long-term conditions, which will shortly be going out for consultation, and we'll see that develop even more in terms of supporting the workforce to develop in that area. And that ultimately provides people that stepping stone with their career pathways, and it means that people are continuously keeping on top of their professional recognition and making sure that they're competent enough to be able to work with a variety of clients. And as you said, you know, the specialisms that you'll see coming out of our partners vary from working with different populations. So it might be working with children, it might be working with people with long-term conditions, to working in different environments. So they might be working in a high-performance environment to a community. And this allows them to really, I suppose, hone in on those skills and make sure that actually they are able to adapt and be relevant and, you know, connect to the individual that they're working with.
Yeah, and Clare, you talked a little bit about some of the employers in the sector, and that there's around 600,000 people working in our sector, and that, you know, doesn't include volunteers. But the one thing is the breadth of types of organisation, and you know, we've been working recently with across the country with a plethora of employers. But that kind of lived experience and how that impacts on communities more than just the physical health and well-being. There's a couple of recent organisations that you've introduced me to, Time for Sport, who are doing a huge amount of work around children and families in deprived areas and supporting with healthy eating schemes and a whole range of activities. And then Wellness Warriors, who are down in sort of Hertfordshire, Buckinghamshire area, who are working with people who are domestic violence survivors and cancer survivors and are overcoming addiction. And again, you know, taking people who weren't part of the sport and physical activity workforce, getting them engaged in activity and using that as a way of really improving lives both physically and mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the traditional look at our sector is it's a leisure facility or it's a leisure centre. Actually, so much sport and physical activity is going on wider than that. Just like you said, the Wellness Warriors, looking at organisations that are dealing with people with domestic abuse, using fitness as a tool to recover and sustain and grow. But also it's that diversification piece. Certainly when you're talking around lived experiences, when you look at initiatives sort of like Uniting the Movement, they want a workforce representative of the community it's serving. If someone's inactive or maybe suffering and, like you say, come through the Wellness Warriors, through domestic violence, they're more than likely going to want to connect with someone that looks and feels like them, that have had that same experience. So we have a huge opportunity in our sector to really build on them foundation skills and use the professional standards like Tash said, but also then professional standards are predominantly led by employers. Yeah. So we make sure that that is what is needed on the ground so we can support those people into physical activity and employment.
And a huge amount of that local view centres around our local skills work and the Local Skills Accountability Board, which bring together employers, education providers and other stakeholders across the area, including health commissioners and local authorities and employment support, and really kind of look at the whole area's priorities in terms of health and wellbeing priorities, economic priorities, social cohesion priorities. And out of that work has come a collaboration, Tash, with DWP that we're looking at in terms of helping their advisors to understand more about our sector and the opportunities, and linking that into job seeker activity. And another layer on top of that is our work with colleges. We're in a college facility here today, our national further education partner, Loughborough College, but we're working with providers with that employer input to help them design curriculum to make it more aligned with what local needs are. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Tash?
Yes, the collaboration piece is really about making sure that there is a consistent message around the careers that are available within the sector. And I think, ultimately it's about making sure that people understand that actually there is so much more to sport and physical activity than just your frontline roles that we've got. And that's the whole point of making sure that that message is consistent and it's accessible, to make sure that people understand that. Some of the other work that we're doing is really engaging with employers, working with those that want to be part of the sector, and using our enhancing training provider partners to be able to deliver the training that's needed, identified by the employers, and we've got the individuals that are engaged within that as well. On the flip side of that, from an education piece, we work with a variety of education partners and supporting them to make sure that the curriculum is representative of what the area is looking for. So again, we've got lots of examples of colleges, of higher education partners and training providers that we've worked with to develop curriculum that meets the professional standards, that also meets the local skills needs as well.
And this is all very much kind of connecting the dots together in terms of the different policy that we talked about at the beginning, the 10-year health plan, which is very much kind of has a prevention stream through it, preventing long-term health conditions and helping people manage them. We know physical activity has a role in that. In terms of the industrial strategy and looking at foundational sectors, and sport and physical activity is essentially a foundational sector. It helps people to be well and healthy and enable them to go about daily lives, including working and contributing to the economy. And then we look at kind of things like Skills England and the work that I think we've been doing across the employer work and the education space on a local level is very much reflected in that policy direction of looking at local priorities. I guess to sum up, what would you say is kind of the key direction of travel from an education employer perspective, in terms of skills in our sector and how it really can be used to help reduce economic inactivity and give more people an opportunity of being not just physically active but economically active, no matter whether they're a young person, somebody returning to work, or a career changer?
I think it's being responsive to what the employers are asking for. I think we're able to do that. We've got great partners that are able to do that. I think us being at the forefront, and actually the government and the wider stakeholders really kind of pushing hard on the fact that we can really impact on tackling economic inactivity through physical activity.
Claire?
Our sector is certainly a foundation sector, so when we talk around employers and local skills, understanding local priorities and ensuring that sport and physical activity can drive the achievement of some of them around inactivity is key. And what we're seeing that's coming out of them plans are priorities such as having a workforce representative community it serves, getting more people more active, moving people away from NHS services into physical activity. And we're seeing the work start to change now and really impact on them areas where we are seeing more people more active. As Tash said, ensuring that education provision meets employer need. We now have fantastic examples where students are completing their learning programs and going directly into local employment, working with the local people. So we're seeing some really good impact there. What we want to do is aggregate that up and spread that, but as well as being a foundation sector, as part of the local skills plans, it's not just our sector. In order to have a great construction or digital industry, you still need a workforce that's fit and able to do that role. So sport and physical activity now, I think more than ever, is starting to be the hub of everything around your tectonic plate is your health. Mm-hmm. How do we get more people, one, engaging with it, but also, as Tash said, ensuring that employers are using professional status to understand that the role that these people play in their communities. Yeah, most definitely, and that's the crux of it. You know, we talk about sort of 9 million people economically inactive. Around 30% of those, it's long-term health conditions that are preventing them from working. So important there. Thank you both for your time today. We've got, still as CIMSPA, we've got a lot of work to do, but working in collaboration with our partners, our employer partners, our education partners,
our strategic partners and governmental organisations like DWP, I'm sure we will kind of continue to see the benefit grow of our sector and the impact of our sector grow. But thanks for your time today.